Hey everybody, Sean here, and I hope you're doing well. Prophecy in the last days is a big topic, and that's what we'll look at today. So let's jump right in. We're going to keep this focused on answering the title of this video. Are we in the last days spoken of by the prophet Joel? Because with the topic of the last days in general, there are a lot of terms used that sound similar. Joel talks about the last days. 2 Timothy speaks of the last days. In Matthew 24, it talks about the end of the age. And in 1 John, it speaks about the last hour. So let's stick with the last days in relation to dreams, visions, and prophecy, because that's a big part of the deception we see today with the New Apostolic Reformation. We read in the book of Hebrews that God has spoken to us in the last days through Jesus. So from when Jesus walked the earth until now would be considered the last days in reference to this verse. 2 Timothy also speaks of the last days and what people will be like. In Jesus' days, there were already people that were lovers of money, proud, unholy, and all the other traits listed. And I'm sure we'd agree that things have gotten much worse and continue to do so. And if we look at Acts 2, where Peter is quoting Joel, he says in verse 17, God said that in the last days he would pour out his Spirit on all people, and sons and daughters would prophesy. Young men will see visions, and old men will have dreams. And in the very next verse, it tells us that even servants and handmaidens will be prophesying. So that's a whole lot of people and a whole lot of prophecy. Kinda like we see today, but is Joel speaking of the time we live now? God continues speaking and says he'll be showing signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth with blood, fire, and billows of smoke. Well, that is definitely not happening yet. And then we get the biggest hint of when this is happening. When the sun is turned to darkness and the moon to blood. And we know that this happens after the sixth seal is opened, as we see in Revelation 6. The point being that this time of prophecy, dreams, and visions is during the 70th week of Daniel and the 7-year covenant, the time of great tribulation and when God pours out his wrath. So the time when God pours out his Spirit on all people, and we're going to hear so many people prophesying, is during that time. It's not right now. Yet people in the NAR movement are using these very same verses out of context to justify all these so-called prophets today. Yes, I believe that God is using people today in the way spoken of in these verses, but it's not to the degree that we see Joel speaking of. So, the next time a false prophet tries to use this passage to justify all the prophecy today, please take the time to show them those verses in context of all that God spoke to Joel. Anyhow, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments below, and until next time, take care and God bless.